My name is Evelyn Monroe, and for as long as I could remember, I had fought to define who I was. I was 34 years old, living in Austin, Texas, a city that embraced individuality and diversity. I had built a life that, on the surface, seemed fulfilling. By day, I worked as a makeup artist and social media influencer, sharing beauty tutorials and glimpses of my personal journey with thousands of followers. By night, I surrounded myself with friends who celebrated freedom, self-expression, and the courage to live authentically. I had transitioned years ago. The process wasn't easy, but I believed it was necessary to become who I was meant to be. I embraced the identity I had crafted, finding comfort in the praise and support of an online community that reassured me I was on the right path. But deep inside, in moments of silence, there was something I couldn't quite name. A restlessness, a void that no amount of validation could fill. That morning started like any other. The Texas heat was already rising as I stepped out of my apartment, balancing a caramel iced coffee in one hand and my phone in the other, scrolling through comments on my latest post. The world felt so normal, so ordinary. I had a photo shoot scheduled that afternoon, a collaboration with a well-known brand, something I had worked years to achieve. Everything was in motion for another successful day, another step forward in the life I had built for myself. And then, in a single instant, everything shattered. I remember the sound of tires screeching against the pavement before I even saw the truck. It all happened too fast. One moment, I was cruising down the road, humming along to my favorite playlist. The next, my vision filled with blinding headlights. A deafening crash. A force like nothing I had ever felt. The impact sent my car spinning. My body slammed against the seatbelt. Glass exploded, metal twisted, and time itself seemed to stretch as I felt myself being tossed like a rag doll in slow motion. My heart pounded, panic rising in my throat as I braced for the inevitable. Then, darkness. I don't remember feeling pain at first. Only a strange, eerie silence. The world around me seemed muffled, distant, as if I were sinking into something vast and endless. My eyelids fluttered, struggling to open, but all I could see was shattered glass, blood pooling near my fingertips, and the faint flicker of my phone screen, cracked and blinking. Somewhere in the distance, sirens howled. Voices shouted. But I was barely there, slipping further and further away. Later, I would learn the extent of my injuries: internal bleeding, broken ribs, a punctured lung, a fractured skull. The doctors would tell me that I had technically died twice in that ambulance. For a total of 6 minutes, my heart stopped. And in those 6 minutes, I saw something that would change everything I thought I knew about life, identity, and the very essence of who I was. Before we continue this incredible journey, I want to invite you to be part of our community. If this story has touched your heart so far, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel, because what happens next is something you don't want to miss. And now, here's something special just for you. In our next video, we'll be sending a personal message to those who comment their name and city below. Imagine hearing your name spoken in front of thousands of viewers, getting that special moment where you are recognized. If you'd love to be part of this experience, leave a comment now with your name and where you're from. The moment my heart stopped, everything changed. I expected nothingness, just a blackout, an end. But instead, I was still there, aware, present, yet no longer bound to the wreckage of my body, to the weight of my injuries. At first, it felt like floating, a strange lightness that left me suspended between worlds. The noise of the accident, the sirens, the voices, the metallic groan of twisted metal, faded into a distant hum, as if the world I had known was dissolving behind me. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't in pain. If anything, there was a strange clarity, a sharpness to my thoughts that I had never known before. Then I saw it. A tunnel stretched before me, vast and endless, spiraling into what seemed like eternity. It wasn't a soft, warm light I had imagined from the stories of near-death survivors. It was something more, a presence that called me forward, a force greater than anything I had ever encountered. I felt myself being drawn into it, pulled by something unseen but undeniable. And as I moved through this space, I became aware of something else. I was not alone. Figures began to emerge around me, shadowy at first, then clearer, familiar. Faces from my past, people I had known, some I had loved, others I had barely thought of in years. They weren't speaking, but I could feel their emotions. Some radiated peace, a deep stillness that seemed to glow from within them. But others carried a sorrow so heavy, so unbearable, that I felt it pressing against my soul. Then I saw myself, not as I had been in life, not as Evelyn Monroe, the woman I had worked so hard to become. Instead, it was as if I was stripped bare, my soul exposed, with every decision, every action, every moment of my life laid out before me like an unfiltered reflection. I saw my childhood, my early years as a little boy named Ethan, before I had the language to explain what I felt inside. I saw the confusion, the longing, the isolation. The moment I first looked in the mirror and thought, this is not who I am. I saw my teenage years, the battles I had fought with my family, the desperate search for belonging. The years of trying to escape the body I had been born into, the painful transformation into Evelyn, believing that with each step, each hormone, each procedure, each change, I was becoming closer to happiness. But in this place, there were no masks, no titles, no surgeries, no labels. Just the raw, unfiltered truth of who I was, who I had always been. And for the first time, I saw the weight I had been carrying, not just in my physical form, but in my soul. Then, the tunnel shifted. I was no longer just watching my life, I was feeling it. Every choice I had made rippled outward, affecting those around me in ways I had never realized. Every conversation, every argument, every moment of joy or pain, it was as if I were reliving them, but from a perspective that I had never known. And then came the voice. It wasn't loud. It didn't thunder or shake the heavens. It was gentle, but undeniable, like the softest whisper carried by the wind. You have always been mine. The words weren't just heard. They were felt, sinking into the very core of my being. It was a love so powerful, so overwhelming, that it brought me to my knees, if I even had knees in this place. It was a love that didn't just see the person I had become, but the person I was meant to be. Then, everything began to fade. The light around me dimmed, the tunnel pulling away like a tide retreating from the shore. I reached out, desperate to stay, to understand more. But before I could grasp onto anything, I felt the crushing weight of reality slamming back into me. And then, pain. Agonizing, unbearable pain. My body was back. My lungs burned as air flooded into them, my ribs seared with every breath. Machines beeped, voices shouted. My eyelids were heavy, but I forced them open, blinking against the blinding fluorescent lights of a hospital room. I was alive, but everything had changed. Waking up in the hospital was like being thrown back into a reality that no longer fit me. The weight of my body, the beeping of machines, the sterile scent of antiseptics, it all felt distant, foreign, as if I had been away for far longer than I actually had. My mind was still trapped somewhere between the world I had seen and the one I had returned to. The first thing I registered was the pain. Every inch of me ached. My ribs felt like they had been crushed under a mountain. My head throbbed, the faintest light piercing through my eyelids like fire. I tried to breathe, but each inhale was shallow, like knives digging into my lungs. I heard voices, muffled at first, then clearer. She's awake. A rush of movement. Someone grabbed my hand. The warmth startled me. My fingers twitched, barely responding. You're okay, Evelyn. You're okay. I turned my head slowly. Michael was there, his eyes swollen, his face creased with exhaustion and something deeper. Fear. Relief. Confusion. I blinked at him, struggling to find words. There was something I needed to say, something I had to explain, but how could I? How do you tell someone that you've seen eternity? That you've met something so vast, so beyond human comprehension, that it shattered everything you thought you knew? The doctors came in, running their tests, their voices blending into a hum of medical jargon. Internal bleeding, a fractured skull, a punctured lung. I should not have survived. The impact had been catastrophic, but somehow my body had fought its way back. But I knew the truth. I hadn't come back on my own. I had been sent back. For days, I drifted in and out of consciousness. Nightmares and visions intertwined. Flashes of the tunnel, of the faces I had seen, of the voice that had spoken to me. Each time I closed my eyes, I felt the pull of something greater, something unfinished. And then came the first moment of clarity. It was the middle of the night. The hospital was quiet, save for the rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, my mind heavy with everything I had seen. And then, as if whispered by the wind itself, I heard the words again. "You have always been mine." I gasped, my chest tightening, not in pain, but in recognition. The presence was still there. It had never left me. A sob caught in my throat. I had spent my whole life searching for meaning, for identity, for a sense of belonging. I had reshaped myself, rewritten my story, believing that happiness could be sculpted from sheer will. But in that moment, I understood the truth I had spent years running from. I was not the author of my own soul. Tears slid down my face as realization gripped me. Everything I had built, everything I had believed about myself, it had been an illusion. A desperate attempt to create a version of myself that would finally feel whole. But I was already whole, because I had never been alone. A wave of peace washed over me, unlike anything I had ever known. Not the temporary comfort of validation or the fleeting high of self-acceptance, but something deeper, unchanging, eternal. It was love, real love, and it was calling me home. I turned my head toward the window. The city lights flickered in the distance, their glow barely cutting through the darkness. I thought about the life I had lived, the choices I had made, the path I had walked. I had been searching for truth in all the wrong places. But now I had seen it, and I couldn't ignore it. Everything was about to change. The days following my near-death experience were a blur of recovery, physical, emotional, and spiritual. My body was healing, but something inside me had already been transformed beyond repair. I couldn't unsee what I had witnessed. I couldn't unfeel what I had felt. At first, I tried to push it away, to tell myself that maybe it was just a dream, a hallucination brought on by trauma. But deep down, I knew the truth. What I had experienced was more real than anything I had ever known. It was undeniable, and that meant one thing. My life, as I knew it, could no longer continue the same way. I spent hours staring at the ceiling of my hospital room, my mind replaying every moment of what had happened when my heart stopped. The tunnel, the voices, the love so powerful it made my soul tremble. The truth that had been revealed to me. I had spent years running from my past, from the identity I had been born with, from the discomfort of not feeling like I belonged in my own skin. I had crafted a new self, piece by piece, believing that if I changed enough, I would finally feel complete. But in those moments beyond life, I had been stripped bare. There were no masks, no labels, no performances, just my soul, exposed before something infinitely greater than me. And the most devastating, yet beautiful realization hit me all at once. I had always been loved exactly as I was. I didn't need to change myself to earn love. I didn't need to redefine my identity to find purpose. The love I had been searching for had been with me all along. A deep, aching sorrow filled me as I thought about everything I had done in my pursuit of fulfillment. The surgeries, the struggles, the battles to prove to the world, and to myself, that I was who I claimed to be. But I had been fighting the wrong battle all along. Tears slid down my face as I whispered into the stillness of my hospital room. What do I do now? The answer was not spoken aloud, but I felt it settle deep into my spirit. A quiet knowing, a truth that could not be ignored. I had to let go of the life I had built. Let go of the identity I had fought so hard to maintain. Let go of everything that was keeping me from the truth. And that terrified me. What would people say? What would my friends think? What about Michael? Could I walk away from everything I had known? But then I remembered the presence I had felt in that other realm, the overwhelming love that had called me back. And I knew I had no choice. The real question was I brave enough to answer the call? Now, before we move on to the next chapter, I have something special just for you. I want to invite you to be part of this journey with us. If this story has touched you so far, take a moment to like this video and leave a comment with your name and city. And here's the best part. In our next video, we'll be giving a personal shout out to those who comment. Imagine hearing your name spoken in front of thousands of viewers, a special moment just for you. So if you want to be featured, don't wait. Drop your name and where you're watching from in the comments now. The day I was discharged from the hospital, I stepped out into the sunlight feeling like a stranger in my own life. The world looked the same, but I was not. Michael drove me home in silence. He had been patient, supportive, more than I deserved, but I could see the questions in his eyes, the growing distance between us. He didn't understand what had happened to me. How could he? I barely understood it myself. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I couldn't keep living the life I had before. As the days passed, my physical wounds healed, but something inside me had been irreversibly altered. Every time I looked in the mirror, I saw not just my reflection, but a question staring back at me. Who am I? For years, I had answered that question with unwavering certainty. I was Evelyn Monroe, a woman who had fought to claim her truth. I had built an entire life around that identity, my career, my relationships, my very sense of purpose. But now, I couldn't shake the feeling that the truth was something else entirely. At night, I dreamed of the tunnel, the moment I had stood before the presence that had stripped me of all my facades and revealed the soul beneath. I would wake up gasping, feeling that same voice echo in my heart. You have always been mine. I began avoiding social media, dreading the pressure to present myself in a way that no longer felt honest. My perfectly curated life, the photos, the followers, the applause of strangers, felt hollow. A mask I no longer had the strength to wear. But the hardest part was Michael. He could tell I was pulling away. One night, as we sat on the couch, his hand found mine. His voice was soft, but filled with something close to fear. Evelyn, please, talk to me. I opened my mouth, but no words came. How could I explain what was happening inside me? That everything I had fought for, everything I had believed about myself, was unraveling? That I could no longer be Evelyn? Tears burned my eyes. Michael, something happened when I was gone. I can't explain it, but I saw things. I felt something so real, so powerful, that it changed everything. I don't know who I am anymore. A heavy silence filled the space between us. His grip on my hand tightened. But you do know, he whispered. Don't you? I turned away. I knew. I had always known. But saying it out loud would mean destroying everything. It would mean walking away from the life I had built, the people who had loved me, the world I had called home. Could I do it? Could I let go? The question haunted me. But deep in my soul, I already knew the answer. Because the truth, the real, undeniable truth, was already setting me free. I had spent my entire life running from myself, from the truth, from the quiet voice deep inside me that had always been there. But now, after everything I had seen, I couldn't run anymore. The weight of it all was suffocating. Everywhere I turned, the truth followed me. In the mirror, in the stillness of the night, in the echoes of that voice whispering, "You have always been mine." I had spent so many years trying to prove to the world that I was right about who I was. That my choices, my transformation, my identity, it was all real. But now, standing on the other side of death itself, I saw it with perfect clarity. I had been searching for something I already had. I didn't need to become someone else to be whole. I didn't need to change my body to be seen. I didn't need the validation of the world to be worthy of love. I had always been loved. I had always been enough. But knowing the truth and accepting it were two different things. Because accepting it meant losing everything. One night, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at my reflection. I had removed all my makeup, let my hair fall naturally around my face. It had been years since I had seen myself like this, raw, unfiltered, without the armor I had carefully crafted. Tears blurred my vision. For the first time in so long, I saw myself. Not the woman I had fought to become. Not the person I had told the world I was. Just me. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid. I had been afraid of losing my friends. Afraid of what people would say. Afraid that if I let go, I would have nothing left. But I wasn't afraid anymore. Because in the end, what I was gaining was so much greater than anything I was leaving behind. I reached for my phone, my fingers trembling. I knew what I had to do. The hardest thing I had ever done. I had to tell the world the truth. I had to tell Michael. I had to say goodbye. And as painful as it was, as terrifying as it felt, I knew this was the moment everything had been leading up to. This was the moment I chose truth over everything else. Before we move on to the final chapter, I want to take a moment to invite you to be part of our community. We don't make money from this. We do it because we believe in these stories and the power they have to change lives. If this journey has touched you in any way, the best way you can support us is by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us continue to share stories that matter. Thank you for being here. Now, let's continue. I had spent my entire life running from myself, from the truth, from the quiet voice deep inside me that had always been there. But now, after everything I had seen, I couldn't run anymore. The weight of it all was suffocating. Everywhere I turned, the truth followed me. In the mirror, in the stillness of the night, in the echoes of that voice whispering, "You have always been mine." I had spent so many years trying to prove to the world that I was right about who I was. That my choices, my transformation, my identity, it was all real. But now, standing on the other side of death itself, I saw it with perfect clarity. I had been searching for something I already had. I didn't need to become someone else to be whole. I didn't need to change my body to be seen. I didn't need the validation of the world to be worthy of love. I had always been loved. I had always been enough. But knowing the truth and accepting it were two different things. Because accepting it meant losing everything. One night, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at my reflection. I had removed all my makeup, let my hair fall naturally around my face. It had been years since I had seen myself like this, raw, unfiltered, without the armor I had carefully crafted. Tears blurred my vision. For the first time in so long, I saw myself. Not the woman I had fought to become. Not the person I had told the world I was. Just me. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid. I had been afraid of losing my friends. Afraid of what people would say. Afraid that if I let go, I would have nothing left. But I wasn't afraid anymore. Because in the end, what I was gaining was so much greater than anything I was leaving behind. I reached for my phone, my fingers trembling. I knew what I had to do. The hardest thing I had ever done. I had to tell the world the truth. I had to tell Michael. I had to say goodbye. And as painful as it was, as terrifying as it felt, I knew this was the moment everything had been leading up to. This was the moment I chose truth over everything else. Before we move on to the final chapter, I want to take a moment to invite you to be part of our community. We don't make money from this. We do it because we believe in these stories and the power they have to change lives. If this journey has touched you in any way, the best way you can support us is by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us continue to share stories that matter. Thank you for being here. Now, let's continue.